Coding Dojo is a programming school that turns beginners into developers in only 14 weeks. If you're serious about landing a career in tech but lack the formal education or background, Coding Dojo will get you there in no time. With over 3,000 graduates to date, over 90% of their grads land jobs within 3 months of graduating, often making over $70K per year at tech firms of all sizes, from companies like Google to local startups. To learn more, visit codingdojo.com or click the link in the description below. Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. Today I am answering some questions that I don't want to answer. I like making videos about cool stuff, not about answering questions about tabs versus spaces, but it's been sitting on my damn Trello board so fucking long that I'm going to make a video about tabs versus spaces because that's what you guys want, and I'm all about giving you what you need. Notice the subtlety there. All right, so, oh wow, you know what? This isn't actually a question. This is an article. Someone had sent me this article. So I'm going to pull this up here. It was on an Ars Technica article. According to statistics, programming with spaces instead of tabs makes you richer. Stop the world, I want to get off. So this was one of those, it's really interesting. Stack Overflow did this developer survey, and so many people wrote articles about this, extrapolated data from this. Wow, this is just one of those things that's like, it doesn't, when you look at the mass of things, see, I get to talk about philosophy, even though I'm not supposed to. When you look at the mass, like a collection of things, a conglomerate of things, it's different than the individual. And so when we do psychological sociology studies, and we look at how a majority of people respond, or a big group of people, there's some data to be gathered from that. I'm not saying that it's totally irrelevant, but we miss the most important pieces, which is the outliers and individuality that makes all the difference. And so it's kind of funny. I mean, the same thing in testing, right? In software development, right? Because a lot of you, how many of you have been burned by this? Because I've been fucking burned by this, is I write some code, okay? And I do unit tests for it, and I test the code, the feature individually, and everything works, and I'm like, well, if it works, it's going to work when it's put together. If component A works by itself and component B works by itself, and I've tested all the inputs and all the outputs from them, and we connect them together, they're just going to work. Well, you get systems behavior. Systems have different behavior than their parts. In conjunction, it's very mind-baffling, and you can, you know, I've argued this till I'm blue in the face, but then I've been proven wrong just by putting component A and component B together. So, you know, the same thing happens here when we take big chunks of data and we try to, you know, the mass definitely acts differently than the individual, right? You create something different when you create a system, or when you group people together and look for behavior patterns. It's different than what any individual would do. So with that said, the survey revealed something. This is a good writer. As devastatingly terrible as the 2017 survey, using PHP and Perl are matters of taste. Extremely masochistic taste, certainly, but nobody is wrong for using those languages. It's just a programming equivalent of enjoying Adam Sandler movies. I used to like it. I like the early Adam Sandler movies. I'm sorry. You've lost me now. You've lost me, dear writer. Sorry. No, I won't be so judgmental as to discredit someone just because they've triggered me. Okay, so he says that he goes on to show this chart here, but the salary differences between developers who use tabs versus spaces. And so it's got 12,426 professional developers in the 2017 developer survey results who provided tabs versus spaces in salary. And there's a little chart here. I should probably bring this up, or maybe we can, I don't know. Basically, it says that it indicates here that the people who are using tabs or who's using spaces, it's a pretty significant amount, but maybe like 5K for most of the chart, or 10K of salary difference versus the ones who are using tabs. And it seems that at the higher end, the people who use both, they have the lowest salary. Now, so let's talk about this a little bit. Well, first of all, what is tabs versus spaces? For those of you that don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, so if you indent with tabs, you're hitting the tab key, and it's one ASCII character that represents the tab, right? In the ASCII character set, there's 256 characters, right, that represent each character, right? So this keyboard button tab corresponds to the ASCII character, or the signal that represents that, which is, or the symbol that represents that, which is a tab, versus indenting your code with spaces, which would mean that instead of hitting a tab, you hit space, space, space 4 times. A lot of IDEs just do this for you anyway. They either can be set to tabs or spaces, so it doesn't really matter. And I feel like it's kind of weird, because what are you using to type your code, and that you have to worry about this today? I don't remember the last time, but I do know that, I mean, if I'm programming, I'm hitting tab instead of hitting space, space, space. I'm trying to think the last time that I was programming that I don't ever recall hitting space, space, space. See, I don't even know for sure, because it's such an irrelevant issue. But anyway, that's what the whole thing is about. There's also another category of people who used both, and they actually made the least amount. And I think we can agree. I mean, if we're not going to agree on tabs versus spaces, it's fine. We're not going to agree on that. That's cool. But I think we can agree, okay, all of us here on this channel, excuse me while I drink some coffee. I think we can agree that the people that use tabs and spaces, that they should be killed. That we should just wipe them off of the face of the earth, and they deserve a lower salary, because those are abominations, okay? Because they are mixing up, you know, there's nothing that destroys my OCD mind more than going into a file and seeing tabs and spaces in there. If you just pick one and be fucking consistent with it, I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that, okay? But if you're gonna mix the two, you just get the fuck out of my way. I'm not going to deal with you today. I'm going to go and reformat the thing, and we're going to have all tabs in there. So yeah, so anyway, I think it's kind of funny that someone would spin off a whole article on that, and I've given you my opinion. I think that, to me, tabs are more efficient. It makes more sense that you have a tab and you've got a standard amount of indenting, that whatever the tab is, and it's less characters in the document. But you know what? If an IDE automatically inserts 4 spaces instead of a tab, or 3 spaces, or 5, I really don't give a shit. The only thing I would really care about is whether or not it is consistent. Like I said, you know, I just have to kill the people that want both tabs versus spaces. So according to the survey, the spaces people make more money, and the tabs people make less money. You know, if I had to guess why that would be, it would be because the spaces people are probably more OCD and are using Linux. I don't know. Maybe the spaces people, maybe they're not using IDs. They're aware that they're using spaces, or they understand the question. I mean, how many people took the survey that don't even understand the fucking question, right? You have to ask that as well. And they just said, well, I use tabs. I don't use spaces. I don't know what spaces are. So I don't know. So this is kind of weird. I just thought this was a good example of a video of one of those things that people get religious about, that honestly, I could care less. I mean, if you presented me a compelling argument as to why to use spaces instead of tabs, or to use tabs instead of spaces, I would hear it and I would be fine, and I could really care less, you know, which way you go, as long as you're consistent. That's all that matters to me. And you know, I think the moral of the story is really just this: is that, like, there's so many people. I mean, I did this video on Linux and whether you should learn Linux. And I've done videos on, you know, being agnostic to technology and not being a religious religious fanatic about a particular technology. And I think it's important, because it's funny, because on that Linux video I said people were like so upset that I would say that someone doesn't need to learn Linux, and just so butthurt about this, and it doesn't really serve you. Like no one who posted some tyrant about, you know, some big tirade about how I'm so wrong about Linux, and Linux is the bee's knees and all this stuff. They didn't look good. Like, no one, I don't think, is reading that and like, oh, this guy knows his shit, and I respect him for being a flaming asshole. No, I think the more moderate approach to say, like, hey, look, whatever you choose, I think there are a lot of people that said that the technology, use the right technology for the job, and that's the same thing here. So with tabs versus spaces, come on, let's get over this. Let's end this debate, and just use tabs. Okay, all right. Talk to you next time. Take care.